Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We're alive. Thank you all for joining me today. Please, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, as always, make sure you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. That is extremely important that you do that. That way, you never miss a notification and you don't have to worry about YouTube unsubscribing you and all the foolishness that comes with that. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get the show started. Let's get the stream started. Many of you saw the interview that I did with Sheldon Daniels earlier this week, but I published it this past Sunday, right? Yesterday. Many of you have seen it already. And there was a portion in that interview that I did with Sheldon where we discussed Jasmine Crockett pretending to be the lawyer of Botham Jean's family. I didn't get to elaborate as much on that story as I wanted to during the interview with Sheldon because I didn't want to take away too much from the conversation. I just wanted to keep things very concise and respect his time while I had him. And I'm very appreciative for him joining me for that discussion. But what I wanted to do today was take a moment to kind of rehash that story and just unpack it a little bit more with reading the direct quotes coming from Botham Jean's family and things of that nature, right? Now, but before I do that, though, I want to get into this first. Have you all noticed that ever since Jasmine Crockett made the Hot Wheels comment concerning Greg Abbott in Texas, the Texas governor, ever since she made that comment, she's gone silent. We haven't seen her around too much ever since then. What was that? Maybe about a week and a half ago, something like that. Yeah, well, close to 2 weeks ago that occurred, and she actually surprisingly at the time received a decent amount of backlash, not too much, but from her own party. We spoke on it at the time. The women of the View, I believe, what's her name again? I can't believe her name is slipping my mind. What's the woman's name on the View? It doesn't matter. But on The View, they talked about how she shouldn't have done that. I believe even on CNN, if I'm not mistaken, it was Van Jones who also came out against her and stated that, what, she shouldn't have did that. She shouldn't have called him Hot Wheels and made fun of Greg Abbott's disability. And since then, she's gone silent. She's gone quiet. She's gone quiet. We haven't seen much of her or heard much of her since then. But there are some folks that are trying to run cover for her. Essentially, you could say to bring her back. Yeah, thank you very much, Sunny Hostin. Sunny Hostin, Houston. I always say her last name wrong. Sunny. That's what I appreciate that. But why? What? But why brains? I appreciate it. It was Sunny though. Some people are running cover for her to kind of, you could say, bring her back and make it not seem like such a big deal. But what I want to do right now is that I want to get into this clip here with Bill Maher and Cuomo, right? Because they discussed that comment and they discussed and outlined why she isn't being, quote, canceled by the left, right? It looks like she's been somewhat disciplined and silenced by the left, but she hasn't been canceled, right? And I'm just curious if you guys agree with their take on this, and then I'll tell you what I think after listening to this. So let's get into it.
There's a crippled character on Joe the cop.
Yeah.
And they make 1,000 jokes about it.
But he's a comic.
But it just shows you that, you can joke about these things without
I'm fine with it. But when you cancel one person, because it's a black woman who's doing it, they're not going to cancel her.
Totally.
Oops. Let's hear that one more time, and I'll let it play.
I'm fine with it. But when you cancel one person, because it's a black woman who's doing it, they're not going to cancel her.
Totally.
That's the problem.
You're right. She wears the magic armor. She wears a magic armor so she can do that. Yes, you're right. And both parties do that. Like when you're in our side, like if I made a fat joke about anybody in the world, how dare you from the left? If you make it about Trump or Chris Christie, it's just hysterical.
That's right.
That's what we got to get past.
I know.
That's those independent, what did you call them? Independent and
critical thinkers.
Critical thinkers.
Like I tell people, I don't want the lemmings. I want the lions. You know, you're going to have the lemmings. You got 45% of the country are happy to follow. Sheeple.
Oh, way more than that.
No, I think they just stay on the sidelines. I think they watch what's going on and they're like, these people are fucked up. Let me just stick to my regular life. Politics doesn't affect me anyway. I'm not going to let this toxify my brain space.
Right.
So, Bill Maher said that she wears the magic armor. Is being a black woman the magic armor in the DNC? What do you guys think? You guys let me know, and I'll tell you guys what I think right now. You know, he's not lying to me. He isn't lying to me. And it's very true to me in that regards, because when you look at the current state of the Democrat Party, the black female vote is pretty much all they have left at this point. That's the final pillar that has yet to completely collapse on the DNC. I believe during the 2024 election, what did black men voted Kamala Harris? I think it was 78, 79%, you know, that's compared to black women's 92%. So yeah, if that dips down to like 85% of black women vote Democrat next election, if that dips down, which is not going to happen, it's not going to happen, right? But in the event that it did, they're cooked. I mean, they're already cooked. Democrats are already cooked. But it's just highlighting the point that that's the final pillar. That's the last thing that's holding them up. So yeah, you know, I would agree with Bill Maher that being a black woman in the Democratic Party, you are essentially wearing the magic armor. You know, you can essentially more or less do no wrong, and there will be no actual consequences. Now, they will sit you down for a little bit, which is clearly what has happened with Jasmine Crockett. They've sat her down, but they didn't put her through the ringer. They didn't put her through the ringer like they're low key kind of doing to Barack Obama right now. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the DNC media outlets, they're somewhat giving Obama quite a few jabs right now, you know, because if I'm not mistaken, recently a book was released. I forget what the title of the book is called, but it was kind of a big deal. And it discussed Barack Obama's kind of behind the scenes, I guess you could say, antics of, I don't want to say he's trying to sabotage Kamala Harris, but he didn't want her to run against Trump. He didn't want her at all. And I guess within the circles of the DNC and the elites of the DNC, it was very clear. And he made that point very clear that he didn't want her. Apparently that's all come out now in this tell-all book. And yeah, they're giving Obama a couple right now, you know, but they're not doing that to Jasmine, and they won't. But they will temporarily silence her, which they did. Now, in the meantime, as she's somewhat silenced, you know, temporarily, right? We have the DNC's favorite do-boy, Charlemagne the God, running cover for her, right? And you got to love Charlemagne because, like I always say, he's one of the fakest guys that I've ever really come across, honestly. He fakes and pretends to be an independent. And, you know, it's okay, Charlemagne. You know, if you're a vote blue no matter who, or that's fine. Just stand on it, bro. Just stand on it. But don't fake being independent. Don't fake, you know, like you don't like both sides. I don't care for both sides. But then whenever the DNC calls, like a good do boy, you know, you show up and you do what you're told. And what's happening in this clip here that we're getting ready to watch is him trying to make light of the whole Hot Wheels situation by making a joke on it and making it a part of his monologue on this little Comedy Central show, right? This is very similar to what he did when he ran a cover for Kamala Harris in 2020. You all remember when Kamala Harris visited the Breakfast Club in 2020 and that whole debacle of her lying about how she used to smoke weed, listening to like Trey Songz and Snoop Dogg when she was in college, even though like she was in college in like 1985, right? Snoop Dogg wasn't around in 1985. Tupac wasn't around in 1985, you know, so how were you smoking weed in your college dorm to Tupac and Snoop Dogg, right? You all remember that debacle. She lied and got caught in a lie, an egregious lie. And then what happened afterwards is that Charlemagne went on CNN or MSNBC, and it was him and the entire Breakfast Club, and they had to clean that up for her. They had to clean it up for her. And then they brought her back onto the Breakfast Club for a redo interview because she fumbled that one so badly back in 2020, right? So this is essentially the same thing here. But when the DNC calls, he comes running because, like I said, he's their do boy. I don't know why he pretends like he's not. You got guys like Roland Martin. He stands on it. He's DNC, vote blue no matter who. And I respect that. I disagree with him, but I respect it. Charlemagne the God, I just can't respect this guy because he's just so fake. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's watch him run cover for Jasmine Crockett.
She did get into a little trouble for some recent comments about the Texas Governor Greg Abbott. And to appreciate this next clip, all you need to know is he's a far-right bigot who happens to use a wheelchair.
We in these.
How is Greg Abbott a bigot? Can somebody explain that to me? How? You know, and I tell you guys all the time, and I'm going to start it over and I'm going to play it. I promise I'll stop talking. I'll just let it run. People like Charlemagne, Jasmine Crockett, and all these other folks in the DNC, they have cheapened Black history. They have cheapened any idea of racial discrimination or anything of that nature, some sort of harassment based off skin color and race and injustice. They have thrown all that in the trash and they have cheapened all of it because they've turned the topic of racism to the boy or woman who cried wolf, or the boy or woman who cried racism. They throw this stuff around all the time flippantly to the point to where now words like racist and bigot mean absolutely nothing. I'm sure if you asked him point blank, how is Greg Abbott a bigot? What are you talking about? He wouldn't be able to answer the question. What is Greg Abbott doing in Texas that's making him a bigot? Can't answer it, man. But anyways, that's enough of me talking. Let's carry on. This is really stupid. Go ahead, Charlemagne.
She did get into a little trouble for some recent comments about the Texas Governor Greg Abbott. And to appreciate this next clip, all you need to know is he's a far-right bigot who happens to use a wheelchair.
We in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess.
Hey, man, when they go low, Jasmine slashes the tires on their wheelchairs, okay?
Anyways, that's corny Charlemagne, and that's him running cover, right? He's trying to soften the blow by making even further joke out of it, making it a part of his monologue, and it is like a perfect picture of him, and then trying to, preface it by saying, well, Greg Abbott is a bigot, right? He isn't, but, I mean, whatever. Just the boy who cried wolf, the boy who cried racism, so that's that. And that's what you have going on with her currently in the moment. A lot of people were talking about Jasmine Crockett needing to be censured because you also have to remember at the same time that the Hot Wheels comment came out, that was also the same week that she attacked that one reporter trying to snatch the phone out of his hand when he was recording her, just asking her a simple question concerning Elon Musk and Tesla, right? And she bruised his hand up and everything like that. If I remember correctly, he filed a police report. But that happened all in the same week. She attacked a journalist, and then on top of attacking a journalist, she was running around calling, Greg Abbott Hot Wheels. Since then, they've definitely sat her down. They've sat her down for a while. So now what I want to do, though, is I want to get into the meat of today's stream as we start bringing things to a close. And what I want to do now is this. So many of you are familiar with this, right? Or you're not. You're familiar with this if you watch my interview with Sheldon Daniels. But let's look at this really quick. Let me bring this down, and I'm going to pull this article up, right? So, absolutely disgusting. Family of Botham Jean demands congressional candidate Jasmine Crockett stop using his name, right? What is this about? Well, way back during the Botham Jean situation, Jasmine Crockett misrepresented herself as being the family's lawyer. They asked her multiple times to stop doing that, and Jasmine wouldn't stop. She kept misrepresenting herself as being the lawyer of Botham Jean's family. And eventually they had to file a cease and desist letter, right? They sent a cease and desist letter. They got their actual lawyer, to send that out there. And then that's when she decided to stop pretending. What I want to do first, before I get into this article here, is that I want to take a moment to actually play what Sheldon had to say during my interview with him when I asked him about this, and then we'll get into this article here, and I'll give you my little spiel on our way out the door of the stream. And what I want to do, because I want to respect the interview that I had with Sheldon and the time that I had with him, because I did appreciate our conversation. As I'm playing the clip from our conversation, what I'm going to do right now is that I'll drop the link to his website, you know, for those of you who didn't have, and I just dropped it in the live chat, and it's also in the description box below. For those of you, you know, who want to show your support to Sheldon Daniels, you know, in his efforts to defeat Jasmine Crockett, feel free, please, to donate to his campaign. The link is in the live chat and is in the description box below. And let's get into what he had to say about this situation here, and then we'll carry on. To which they had to issue out a cease and desist letter to get her to stop pretending to be their family lawyer when she wasn't. Is this something that you are aware of? And do the people of your district know about this story?
This is something that I'm aware of. Not many people in the district know about this story because the Democrats, and you need to understand something about Dallas. The local media here, from the Dallas Morning News, the Dallas Observer, 95% of our major institutional media here in Dallas, they are staunchly blue. They are 100% Democrat, you know, and so when their darling, right, Jasmine, makes a mistake, they cover it up. You see, the story had to get broken by a journalist down in South Texas, you know, through the Texas Tribune. That should have come out in the Dallas Morning News. But there's a reason they don't want voters informed about Jasmine Crockett, right? Now, wait until they start running polls and they start seeing how much ground I'm gaining in the district, and watch how the Dallas Morning News goes and reports on anything that they can find about me. But stuff about that happened right here in Dallas that relates to a situation that is of national interest, Dallas Morning News is completely silent on that deal. And that's just an example. And so it's part of my job to educate voters and to inform voters. And I'm telling people about that. And the more people hear about that, they're just disgusted with her because it tracks. You know, as an attorney, Jasmine came into this deal. And let me tell you something about being a lawyer. Most people assume that all lawyers are successful and rich, right? But there's a lot of lawyers out there who kind of give lawyers a bad name. It's easy for a rich person like Jasmine to get a law degree, come out, buy the fancy car, already have the Gucci bags, already being able to buy all the stuff. So people in their mind, they think that she's a successful attorney. No, she's an attorney who happens to already be really rich. She's actually not that great of an attorney, based on what people have told me. I'm not personally saying that. But it just goes to show she was willing to do anything that she could to further her brand as an attorney, even if it meant lying, right? Even if it meant holding herself out and really hurting this family, a black family, right? The people that she claims to care so much about, but she stepped right on them to further herself. And that's what she did with TX30. She stepped right on us to further herself, and people recognize that now. And so, you know, her days are numbered. And absolutely, when you're talking about character, clearly Jasmine Crockett has no character. She made fun of a guy for being in a wheelchair, something that was not of his fault at all, right? And he still has dedicated his life to public service, way more than she's ever done. It just goes to show who she is as a person. It's disgusting.
So, I mean, like you said, he stepped on, you know, while we have this person here, you know, who's thoroughly drunk the MSNBC Joy Reid flavored Kool-Aid, he completely ignores the facts and the reality, you know, behind what we're discussing here, that Jasmine Crockett stepped on a black family, people that she claims to care so much about, black people. She stepped on a black family for political gain. And she did that to her entire district of TX30. My man, while you're being here disingenuous, but I get it. The MSNBC Kool-Aid, the Joy Reid flavor MSNBC Kool-Aid, like it must taste great. It must taste great. And I guess you're drunk off of it right now. So let's get into this here, man. Let's get into this article. It's wild. People just facts and just go right over their head. They just want to believe what they want to believe. But anyways, as this article states here, absolutely disgusting. Family of Botham Jean demands congressional candidate Jasmine Crockett stop using his name. She was using this man's name for political gain, using this man's name for donation, using this man's name to get into the position that she was successfully able to get into, which is that of Congresswoman Crockett now. You know what I mean? She's Congresswoman Crockett off of using Botham Jean's name, right? And misrepresenting herself as the lawyer of the family. The family of Botham Jean, who was fatally shot by a Dallas police officer in his apartment, sent State Representative Jasmine Crockett a cease and desist letter. This is back in March of 2022. The family of Botham Jean, a Dallas man who was fatally shot by a Dallas police officer in his apartment in 2018, issued a fiery open letter to congressional candidate Jasmine Crockett demanding that she stop representing herself as their attorney for political gain. How disgusting is that? How disgusting is that? And I quote, Botham's name is not an endorsement you can parade, and his legacy is not a soundbite you can use to garner media coverage. The letter from the family reads, this woman is disgusting. Crockett, who represents Dallas as a state representative, is in a runoff battle with Jane Hamilton to be the Democrat successor to retiring U.S. Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson. In an open letter shared with Texas news outlets, John's family said they previously asked Crockett to stop using Botham Jean's name in any capacity related to her political career. They told her to stop numerous times, but those wishes had been disregarded. She could have cared less. Jasmine, she didn't care. She said, I'm going to use this dead man's name so I can further my political career in the name of Black Power. That's what she did. The letter said they have now asked their legal team to send Crockett a cease and desist letter. For you to misrepresent yourself as one of our attorneys is absolutely disgusting, the letter reads. You do not represent my family in the interest of Botham and have never represented my family in the interest of Botham. So for you to publicly publish these lies, both written and audibly, is unacceptable and unbecoming of any civil servant and any decent human being. Clearly, this is only for political gain, and we, the family of Botham Jean, want no part of it. Once again, I mean, how sick of a person do you have to be? Ambition is one thing. It's one thing to be very ambitious, right? And to kind of just, walk the line, the fine line of, doing the right things and doing the wrong things. But then it's a whole nother thing to completely exploit the demise of a man. You've completely exploited the death of another human being for your own gain. That is unbelievably disgusting. The letter released by the Vault Consulting Group was signed by the family of Botham Jean. Allison Jean, Botham Jean's mother, told the Dallas Morning News that Crockett's website incorrectly stated that she represented her family. Crockett said in a statement to the Texas Tribune, it was a mistake. How, Sway? How is that a mistake? You don't mistakenly put on your website that you are the attorney for anybody's family, let alone the family of Botham Jean, which was a high profile case that occurred, and it became a national news. It swept the country up as far as this case is concerned. You don't do that on accident. That wasn't a mistake. It was very intentional because you're a disgusting human being. While nothing was directed towards our campaign regarding this issue, I do want to respond and say that as a civil rights attorney, I never intentionally inflict additional distress upon any family. There may have been confusion about some information on our website, which was remedied as quickly as it was brought to our attention, she said. Look at this. Can't get any more fake than her. Crockett is a civil rights lawyer. Yeah, whatever. We don't need a bio. We don't need her bio. Let's get into this here as we round this out. The family wrote that fighting for justice on behalf of Botham Jean is an undertaking that we wish no family has to endure. And I quote, having to fight overzealous police officers and now having to fight overzealous lawyers such as yourself to protect our loved one's name is absolutely traumatizing, the letter said. She traumatized Botham Jean's family. Traumatized it. Can I read this quote one more time in closing? Because this is a powerful quote. Botham Jean's mother stated, speaking about Jasmine Crockett, having to fight overzealous police officers and now having to fight overzealous lawyers, Jasmine Crockett, such as yourself, to protect our loved one's name is absolutely traumatizing. Disgusting. Completely disgusting. Hopefully, you guys, I'm rooting for Sheldon. I definitely put a little something on the books for Sheldon. And if you support the brother and get behind, and you are with his campaign to unseat Jasmine Crockett, I would suggest you do the same. I would suggest you do the same. Like I left his website in the live chat below, so you can donate if you want to. But I just wanted to further highlight this topic here and this point here, because it's nasty. This is nasty work, man. Nasty work. You think about all of the stress. Or I shouldn't say think about it, because I can't imagine. I have a child, right? I have a son. Most of you know that I have a son. I have a little boy. I can't imagine the worst case scenario happening. And especially under circumstances like this, where, the life is taken by anybody. That in and of itself is stressful. But then it turns into a political circus on top of that. It turning into a political circus makes the situation even that much more stressful. Now that everybody is using the situation as a political football on both sides to further their agendas, whichever side that is, whatever agenda they're trying to push forward. So now, as you're dealing with all this stress, you have somebody like a Jasmine Crockett, a sleazebag, who comes around and promotes themselves as your family's attorney so that they can push themselves further up the ladder and achieve their ultimate goal of becoming a congresswoman, which she did. She did that off the back of a dead man. And she did that off the back of a Black family, which she's supposed to care about, right? She's pro-Black too, I guess, right? They all say they're pro-Black. She did that off the back of a Black family and the back of a dead Black man. She could care less. She's out for herself and herself alone. And this just needed to be talked about, needed to be told. I needed to elaborate on this more. I'm going to leave the link to this article here because you guys should read it for yourself, but also share it with others, man. Share it with others and get the word out concerning how disgusting this woman is. So I'll leave that here. And with all that being said, that's going to do it for today's stream, man. I thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit that like button on your way out if you haven't. Please don't just hear me say hit the like button. Please hit the like button on your way out. If you're new to the channel, watching me for the first time, and you enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Telegram. That is extremely important. A link to my Telegram's in the description box below. It'll be pinned in the comment section after the stream ends. Telegram. If you're watching me on X right now, all 44 of you watching me on X, please repost this, re-X this, retweet this, if you haven't already. And shout out to those of you who are watching me on Rumble. Now what I want to do, I want to get into a couple questions and comments very quickly that were left via super chats, because I don't exist without you guys' support. So I thank you guys so much for all the support you guys show me on this channel. And let's get into it. My man Saul coming through as he always does, keeping my family fed. He said, great interview with Sheldon Daniels, about to donate. Yeah, that's what's up, bro. That's what I appreciate, that you enjoyed the interview. And it got a lot of great feedback. And I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to talk to him. Shout out to my man DSB, 26 months of service. Thank you, DSB. Always showing love, always showing love. He says, shalom, my warrior brother. I appreciate you, DSB, man. Always holding me down for as long as you have. Dre Harden said, headed to the gym, just stopped by to Terry a bit with the homies. Have a good day, y'all. Jezebel Jasmine. Jezebel Jasmine. That's funny. And shout out to College of Natural Health Science, BDA. Hold on, College. I got you. Where is it at? I got you, College. Hold on. Some of you guys, you know what's coming. Let me turn the volume all the way up. Okay, let me read it. College of Natural Health Science BDA said, you better thank a union member for fakers and phonies.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
You better thank a union member. And with all that being said, man, that does it for today's show. I will catch you guys later, man. Have a great afternoon and a safe one. Peace. I'll catch you guys soon.